members here, a quorum has been established. Before I introduce the board members, or before the board members introduce themselves, you probably noticed two new faces at the end of the table. Paul Rubin and Sue Rubin, is that the last name?
Yes.
They are our new management company representatives, the owner and his wife. Welcome.
Thank you.
And if you want to just...
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the board for putting your trust in us, and I'd like to take this chance to introduce ourselves to the homeowners. Thank you very much in advance. We're going to take really good care of you. I've already heard from a lot of people. If you need to contact us, we're your first points of contact. Call the office. You're going to get a human being that's going to answer the phone during business hours. After hours, we do have an emergency line, and I'd like to take this moment to give that phone number out to everyone because I don't know that it's been published anywhere. If you don't
It's on the voice office. After hours, you have an emergency. It says, here's the emergency.
Does anybody want the phone number for the emergency line? If you do, I'm happy to get it. Okay, thank you. The emergency line number is, and this is 24/7, the human answers as well, 480-729-5814.
We'll put that in the minutes.
So I look forward to working with each and every one of you. Feel free to call. I always happy to help. Thank you very much.
Brett, starting from your side, you want to just introduce yourself?
I'm Brett Bellhausen. Just got appointed to the board, so this is my first go around.
I won't stand because I can't. My name is Ken Palmer. I was on the board for 3 years and I've now been back on for a year. You may have noticed these little cards in the back. Last time we had quite a bit of audience participation. We would like, if you feel like it, to get a card, take a pencil, write your name on it, and a question. If we don't get around to it at this meeting, we will get back to you one way or another, but it will cut down a lot on some of the questions. You still will have an opportunity every time we have a motion, a second, a board discussion. There will be an opportunity for the members to speak up. We would ask, though, that you keep it short because we have a fairly big agenda today. Okay.
Kim Clover, the secretary, and I've been a board member now. This will be my 3rd year.
David Derechek, just got appointed the last meeting. Welcome.
Paul Pauls, I've been a board member since 2017. Okay, introductions have occurred. Let's review the board minutes for October 24th and for November 16th. Let's start with the October 24th minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to forego reading the minutes because there is a copy of the minutes at the sign-in table for those of you who'd like to take them.
I'll second that. I definitely agree with that. However, I have quite a few problems with the October 24th minutes. These just aren't accurate. The third point under the call to order is that I made a motion to adjourn, and then there were about 20 items afterwards. You can't conduct business after the meeting was adjourned. And likewise, committee was formed to decide on the color. There was no decision to have a committee. The original bid that was accepted last April, if you go back and read the bid, was for a color similar to what we currently have, and it was for painting of everything. It was not for the repair of the railings, but it was for painting and repair of the walls. Likewise, let's see, where else do we have here? We were also talking about, well, even on the adjournment again, it was talking about how a motion was made and it was seconded, and then it was passed, but there's no talk about whether it was a unanimous or who did vote for it, who did not. Underneath the financial review, motion was made by Paul to accept the financial review. Michelle seconded. The motion passed. Doesn't state whether it was unanimous or not. We really should have these notes up to date. I have no problems with the November minutes, but the October minutes are just inaccurate. I suggest that we rewrite those before we accept them.
I don't know how you can rewrite them.
Well, we can make them accurate.
Why don't you make your comments and then we'll look at them in a little more detail.
Well, I think as a board, we were there, we should discuss it. Not we will make a determination. But I will send.
Where have you been on these? AAM made no effort to keep minutes, to take minutes, to do minutes.
I'm not talking about AAM, Ken. I'm talking about the document that's in front of us.
Let me finish. This was done by a volunteer group looking at the videotapes.
Okay.
And you're not going to get much difference. And if you want to make your suggestions, we'll go back and compare it to the tape and see if what you say is true. You did make a motion to adjourn.
I did not do it the third point of the meeting, Ken.
Okay, you did it at the very early point of the meeting, and I stood up and objected to it.
Ken, I made the motion to adjourn and under Robert's Rules of Order. There were no need for a second or a final.
What do
And
you
secondly,
mean? What do you mean? You can, a motion for adjourn and it's done?
at that point, when there was a threat made to one of the other homeowners, yes.
What do you mean
There
a
was no
threat?
threat
There was no
made.
threat.
Okay, I'm not going to sit here and debate this.
Well, that's
I
why-
have a problem with the minutes,
Okay, that's
and I will.
why you need to give us your version of the minutes, and then the board will take it to executive session.
I am
and
the
we'll
board,
resolve.
and we will take it to the
No,
executive
you are the
session.
president, you are one member of the board.
Right, I am part of the board is what I'm saying.
I said.
That's already been pointed out by other people. When I say I am the board, I am part of the board. If anyone wants to paraphrase me, that's what I mean. So I am part of the board. It won't go to you and or anybody else to make these determinations. But thank you. If anyone wants to make a motion to accept the minutes, I will not. But
So if it's 4-1, then they're accepted?
if somebody makes a motion in a second, yes.
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
I second.
I third. We vote now.
That would be an all. First of all, you made the second and all those in favor,
Aye.
Aye.
knowing that they're wrong. Okay, I oppose. November minutes, I make a motion we accept the minutes as written.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. Mr. Rubin, management report, please. Manager's report.
Really have a report, so I'll defer.
Okay, in the future, we'll probably get some kind of a
Yeah, I guess the other thing I can report is we have not received the year-end financial.
and you have not received the money
No.
either.
From AAM?
No, we
You're
haven't
talking about
received the
me.
final records of the year-end financial funds. We expect them any days. That's about the only thing this is report right now.
How have the contacts with the various vendors been?
We've written and we contacted all vendors and contractors, and many of them, if not all of them, have responded and sent us the information.
So we're kind of ongoing 30-day evergreen until we decide.
You guys all, can everybody hear Paul?
No, not at all.
Would you mind standing and,
No, not at all.
and just repeat what you just said? Just so they can understand what.
In the transition from AAM, we await the final financial report for the year end. We await the final books, records, files, and funds, which we expect within the next few days. So there is no final financial report. We have written to all the vendors, contractors, utilities the association does business with, and we've heard from most of them giving us the information we requested or proof of insurance. And the rest of the transition will take place as we receive the final records and funds from the prior management company.
Thank you.
So to be clear, Paul, you have not received any funds from AAM.
We've received initial funds. I don't recall, I think it was maybe
Yeah,
50,000.
you got to check the 50,000.
And that was the only funds. And then we've also been receiving payments from members. And just a few days back, we posted opening balances from AAM to members' accounts in terms of people that owed money and people that had credits. So there's, I think, 36 people with credits on their accounts and 20 or 30 people who had opening balances from the match.
Now, some people are still sending their money to AAM, are they not? To
That's
the-
my understanding from the
So-
phone calls that I received.
We need to work with the people that try and.
Yeah, I do think what they will do probably for a while, in several weeks, they'll save up stuff that they get, if homeowners continue to send it to them, and they'll forwarded on to us, and then we'll need to remind those homeowners to correspond with us directly in the future.
A lot of people have automatic payments from their checking accounts, and
They gotta switch it.
Well, that should have, well, I contacted AAM because I have mine automatically withdrawn every quarter. And they said as soon as the contract was finished, which was December 31st, that stopped.
I
So
believe that's.
So those payments may not be made then. Who knows?
they may not.
It's gonna be a while before things kind of get sorted.
It's going to have to flow through. Obviously, as we had mentioned, and I believe we are sticking by this, that there will be no late fees until we sort this
Of
all out.
course, it goes without
Correct.
saying.
Well, I prefer it be in the minutes, but thank you. Amy.
No, put it in.
Okay, committee reports. If that's all, I mean, unless there's anything else on the management survey or update.
Maybe I'll just say one more thing.
Please.
If you want to call the office and make sure we have your right contact information, your correct email addresses and so forth, you may want to do that. It's not mandatory, but in case you're wondering what I got, I don't know that what I got is what is still current. Sure. Excuse me, 623-974-8585.
And PRM,
I'd like to say something. We did call the property management company last week, and one of the contact numbers they had on my account was not my number. It was actually another homeowner's phone number in our association. So she's right, everybody should call and make sure she does have the right information.
But the address was on the envelope, return envelope to you.
Yes.
Yes.
I think the issue is with the people that had the direct deposit, it may not have gone to the new PRM.
No, I
It may not
wrote a
have
check.
gone- No, I'm
But
just
I
saying some
didn't
of the
receive
funds.
anything for that $11 and some cents.
We'll talk about that a little bit later on. It's on the agenda.
Do we use the same website as before?
I don't.
The website? No?
I don't know anything about the website.
The website
They do not have a
You
website.
know?
the website was through AAM, and
Okay, so that one's no longer on.
Right.
yeah.
That's also a point that we'll discuss later,
Yeah.
websites. Committee reports. The only committee that we have established right now is the ARC report.
Right.
And as clearly stated by you, Ken, in several emails, with only 2 members, we don't have an ARC committee, so therefore there was nothing from the last meeting.
That's fine. In the future, there will be more reports. We've asked people if they want to be on a committee, please sign up, because we've got a lot of activities we want to get going on, so.
Okay, old business, let's look at the 2019 budget review and reserve study.
Okay, we technically don't have a budget. We did not approve one with AAM. I reviewed the 2017 actual and the 2018 actual and the proposed 2019. And I put together the major items, and it's on that whiteboard in the back, which you can take a look-see at and get an idea of. I'm not presenting it as a budget. I'm not proposing that I'm the budget man, but I want to show people the major categories. We take in about $300,000 of assessments. About $34,000 of that goes into a reserve account to handle major issues. So we have about $262,000 for budgeting. There are 4 major categories, and just give them to you so you kind of get a feel. Administrative, which includes mailings and meetings and insurance and things like that, is $24,000, so it's a relatively small amount. Utilities is one of the largest items. Electricity is $5,000 roughly. Water is $72,000. Okay, so it's a big item. Repairs and maintenance, our big issue is repairing our irrigation system. It's roughly $10,000, and a whole bunch of other little things is about $7,000 for a total of $16,000 or $17,000. So administrative and repairs and maintenance, relatively small. The biggie is the landscape contract is actually it's $8,100 a month, which is $96,000 a year. In it, okay. The management contract is $19,000 a year. The total there was 115. So 115 is in contracts, 76 is in utilities, 24 in administration, and 16 in maintenance. That comes to 233,000. That leaves about 30,000 unaccounted for. There are a whole bunch of things I did not include. The budget committee is going to have to sit down and decide which of those items we really want to do. Do we want to do them? Do we want to do more? Do we want to do less? So we've asked for people that are so inclined to sign up for the budget committee. The large items was legal collections and legal general, and that's 20 or 30,000 a year, and we need to get our arms around that, and the board's going to have to deal with it. The other item that was in our budget last year, we spent $75,000 on the granite replacement down around the laureates, and that was a 1/3 of a 3-year program. That money should have come out of our reserve. We have almost $400,000 in our reserve, which we've built up over the years and spent very little of. And so, as an adjunct to the budget, we need to redo our reserve study. And what that is, they say, what's in your reserve? The playgrounds, the post office boxes, some of the little things, the trees, the gravel, the painting of the walls and whatnot. The gravel never got put in. It was done in 2011. Damon and I went to a seminar yesterday, and they talked about reserve study. Every year, the board should look at the study to kind of see how is it doing. But every 3 years, you ought to really look at it seriously. Is everything in there? Is it funded properly? Is it overfunded? Usually it's underfunded. That's not been done since 2011. So one of the items is that we want a motion to recommend that we investigate doing a study of the reserve. We definitely need to put the gravel in there. We don't have $75,000 in our operating budget to do the gravel this year and to do $75,000 next year as well. We actually went in deficit about $40,000 in the 2018 budget because they put the 75 in there. Yes.
That's really great information, Ken. Thanks for sharing. As far as the gravel goes, are we tied into Four Peaks? Like, how does the contract work with that? Are we able to get other bids?
We signed a we bid, I think, 3 different people. And Four Peaks was by far the most economical of the 3, as I recall. And it was we bid it as one package or as 3 pieces. We gave them the 3 pieces. As far as I know, we don't have to honor the second piece.
Okay.
We could, well, when we get it, if we get the reserve study done, and then we say, okay, let's go ahead with the program, we have enough money, we might just go ahead and do both phases if the board decides to. But we definitely have enough money to do a phase at a time. We could ask Four Peaks, is their bid still good? Or we could say, go out to 3 or 4 people, include them, let them redo their bid, which really makes sense. I mean,
Right, okay.
it's been a year, it's going to be another 6 months at least.
Sure, okay.
Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
Anyway,
Just a
hopefully
reminder that 1/3 of the granite has been replaced, 2/3, and it was the same third that had already been replaced. So 2/3 of the community have not had their granite changed in at least 5 or 6 years.
And I feel the board would be receptive to, as soon as we get the money sorted out, if it looks like it's okay, we might say, hey, let's go ahead and do both phases. But that's not my decision, it's the board's decision. Hopefully that gives you at least a picture of where we are. We're actually fairly well funded. We have probably $250,000 in our operating fund, and we put $300 a year in, and we spend $300. We had $300, and it dropped to $250 because they did the gravel out of that in 2018. Okay, so it went from $300 to $250. So we roughly have almost a year's working money in our checking account, and we have close to $400,000 in our reserve account. And the single biggest item is gravel, which is another $150,000. One of these days, though, we're going to have issues with our irrigation system. It's going to need some money spent on it. That's a biggie. We're not even close to thinking about it, but it's going to come.
And at this point, we've waited so long on the painting, we're probably going to have to rebid that as well.
Yeah, I don't think hardly any of our bids are current, or the contractors will honor them, so we'll have to go through that when we get there.
Yep. Okay, so what is the recommendation of what's coming out of what you're suggesting?
Well, I would like I'm proposing a motion to find out at least one or two people who can redo our reserve study and come back to the board with a recommendation and a price. Can I have a second?
I second.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not quite clear what the motion is. Are you
To-
saying
to-
we're going to form a committee to determine what engineering companies there are to do a study
We're,
on our reserve
we're
fund?
forming a budget committee,
Okay.
and part of the budget committee will be to reevaluate the reserve. In order for it to be, I mean, I'm an engineer, I could do it, but I would be guessing on a lot of the numbers. Probably wouldn't be bad, but it probably wouldn't stand up in court. So you end up hiring an engineering firm to do a reserve study. My motion is that we get some bids for a reserve study, and we come back to the board with a recommendation.
Paul, for an association our size, do you have any idea what an engineering study or a reserve study would cost?
Well, it's
Just ballpark.
There's a few companies that do it, I would guess about 1,500. But sometimes they give you, it's an odd industry, they give you a different price depending on, we have another community bidding, and they said it's a higher price if you want the study in 30 days, but if you want it in 60 or 90 days, it's a lower price. So I think that's the kind of bid that you could get from at least two companies I know of, and saying, here's what we would charge, but I think it's different pricing depending on how quickly one responds.
Yes, Ken?
Damon and I went to Mulcahy yesterday, and that was one of the topics that was discussed. And she said, you can probably get it off the internet for $99, and you can probably go to a big three engineering firm and spend, who knows, $20,000.
Exactly.
But we're
I'm thinking
more in the
probably around
1,000 to
1,500 maybe.
I'm hoping, okay, but we'll find out.
I'll second your motion.
I assume the audience.
Any discussion?
I think it's a great idea.
Absolutely. All right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimous. I'm sorry, Brett, did you say yes? Aye. That's unanimous. Okay, next step is the Architectural Review Committee.
Anybody want to take that one on?
Well, you state here that it says it's an annual retirement, and it's not an annual retirement, it's an annual reappointment.
Right. Our CCNRs say that the Architectural Review Committee shall be composed of 3 members and an alternate. They shall serve for 1 year. There must be, by state law, a board member as chairman, which Paul Hoff has filled that duty. And I believe Chris Falkowitz, who may be here,
Yes.
is the other member. Sandy, I think it was.
Yep,
Biffle,
that's all. He resigned.
was on it for many years and resigned recently, or declined to redo it. We can re-elect them for year after year. We have not in the past done that. They've just kind of let it go. So in order to follow our CCNRs, I am going to ask for a motion that we thank Chris and Paul for their years of service, and that we give them a letter thanking them. And we've asked for people to sign up who want to serve on it for the next year.
For purposes of clarification, Ken, they do not automatically need to be reviewed. If you read the CCNRs, it automatically renews unless they are replaced. I don't need a letter to thank me, but thank you, I appreciate that. And I will gladly step aside off of the art committee. I do know that we need to make sure that the art committee knows the scope of what they're stepping into. And the reason being, I know at least one prospective member who had indicated if they were on, at least nominated or accepted on the committee, they would require or go out and get soil samples, etc., for new construction and so on. That's not the purpose of our art committee. Our art committee is to follow the rules and regs of construction to make sure that they fit the guidelines. It's the city that takes care of actually issuing the permits and doing any soil samples and making sure. Yes, Chris?
Hi, I'm Chris, I'm the other member on our committee. We actually just built a house up there, and soil samples are not part of it. The city of Peoria actually handles that, and when you get your permit from the city, they actually require you to get samples done. So that's not something of the architecture review committee's purview at all. And frankly, I think it'd probably be over the scope of a lot of our heads to, I know our soil sample was 138 pages long, and it's just a drill in the soil. So I don't think we're really equipped, that's why they're engineers that do that. But that being aside, I also would be fine, if somebody else wanted to take on the role, I'd be absolutely fine. I did want to make a quick point. You said, Ken, I believe that there are 3 members of the architectural committee. When I read the bylaws, it says at least 3 members.
Yes.
So I have no problem with increasing that to 5, as long as
It has to be
number.
odd.
Exactly.
3, 5, 7, 9.
So I think it would be great, I'd love to stay on, and then increase that to another 3, 4 members, whatever, if Paul doesn't wish to be on anymore, to help roll things over. But again, that's the board's decision, but I'd love to stay on and continue to help.
When the first committee formed in like '06, I believe, there were, I think, 7 on the board. The problem they ran into, several of them wouldn't follow up and do the job that they needed to do. And in order to have a quorum, they needed 4. And they repeatedly failed to get 4 people in order to do it and deal with it and have it in the 45 days. So I don't have a problem with us having a larger committee, but if it doesn't work, the board, which they did then, they kicked the miscreants off the board. Because, well,
I think it'd be a great solution.
it wasn't working.
Exactly. And that's what we need, is we need it to work fully and cooperatively,
Okay,
so yeah.
so really what we're saying is, we want to start over again. You guys may sign up and be considered, that's fine. I'm
Sure,
not
okay.
saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I also want to stress that there were no formal meetings, and to my knowledge, there are no minutes of any meetings for the architectural committee from its inception. Most of, if not all of the decisions have been made via unanimous written consent emails. If I'm mistaken on anything that happened prior to 2008 or 9, I will be corrected, but I have seen no evidence of any minutes. And the architectural committee bylaws state, as long as there is unanimous, meaning all members of the architectural committee agree, it can be approved via unanimous written consent or via email, which is what we occur. So if somebody submits a painting request, we don't have to have an open meeting and call an open meeting to say, yes, your painting request is approved. Likewise, solar panels, dishes, etc. Those are items that by law you have to have an exceptional reason to reject them. And very few are, unless they are obtrusive and or like right in the front of your house, then you can state, unless it's a reception issue, you cannot, you can't deny a dish. So there are certain things that you have to use prudently, and as long as we have been able to, and since I've been on board, we have been able to unanimously agree on all of the submissions that were occurred. So I just want to make sure that we're clear. There are no minutes to architectural meeting minutes, because architectural meetings have been via email based on submissions, not based on any reports. I'm sorry, Kim, is there something you...
Well, just because it hasn't been done, doesn't mean it's not supposed to.
Our CCNRs require minutes and votes and
For open
meetings.
meetings.
Okay,
And if there are no meetings, then there are no minutes, and there are no open meetings. As long as the submissions were addressed within the 45-day period, which they were, and they received a unanimous vote, not a majority vote, a unanimous vote.
I got a question for all the members out here. Is everybody happy with what the art committee has already approved for this neighborhood and some of the things that they've done in this neighborhood? As far as the lights, the buildings, you know, right up
Paint
next to
colors
the
on
wall,
houses,
paint colors.
no.
Well, rather than taking up specific issues of
No.
lights, et cetera,
Well, I'm just,
I will ask Brett that you understand what was approved and what was done. And if we want to take that action